Hi, everyone. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about mean absolute deviation, what it is, how to find it, and how to actually calculate with that variability. Okay. So I have two different number sets up here that I already started, and then I'll give you the full-on version in the end. But pretty much the first step to calculating anything with mean absolute deviation is to first calculate the mean. So I'm going to start with these red set numbers over here. Okay. So I have a total of 6 numbers. All right. So what I did to calculate the mean, just as a review, you're literally just going to add all of those up and divide by how many numbers there are. So I have my calculator up here, and this you can just do as a calculator problem. So as you're adding, you just take 10 plus 8 plus 13 plus 10 plus 9 plus 5 plus 15. Okay. Excuse me, there are 7 numbers. I digress. So we're going to take that 70, that total, and divide it by how many numbers there are in the set, which is 7. So that's how I get a mean of 10. Okay. So that's the first step in anything with mean absolute deviation. We have to know what the mean is. Okay. So then I'm going to fill these all in as these are all 10s. The next set then is to actually calculate the difference. Okay, so in calculating the difference here, what I want to do then is take my number, whatever the number in my set is, and then subtract the mean from it. So the first number, I'm going to take 10 minus 10, and we get a difference of 0. 8 minus 10 is a difference of -2. 13 minus 10 is 3. 10 minus 10 is 0. I'm going to fill in the rest of these all the way down. Now, I'm just showing you this for the algorithm that's in play. What we're going to actually do is we're actually going to go straight from the number in the set, the mean, and actually go right to the positive value, because this is what we're talking about with mean absolute deviation. That absolute part is talking about what's known as absolute value. So we always want a positive value with absolute value. Okay, so then I'm going to just convert these in the end and make them the positive value. Now, obviously, if it's already positive, we don't change that. But here we have the -2, that becomes a +2. 3 stays the same. 0 stays the same. -1 becomes 1. -5 becomes 5. And then 5 is 5. So all we're doing here for mean absolute deviation is we are calculating each number's distance it is from the actual mean. Okay. And as you notice down here, I actually have a formula in here that is totaling these up, because once we actually have those distances, once we have all those distances from the mean, we are going to add them all up. Okay, so when I add the 0, 2, 3, 0, 1, 5, 5, and 5, or excuse me, 1 and 2 5s here, I get a total of 16. And then we have to find our variability in the end, which I'm going to take that 16. I'm going to take that 16 and I'm going to divide it by however many numbers are in the set again. So again, there are 7 numbers in the set. I divide it by 7, and I get a variability, or a mean absolute deviation, which these words are interchangeable, of approximately 2.28 or 2.29. Okay? So I'm going to quickly jump over I have a completed version here. We're going to jump in the next set. Okay? So here I have, in the blue set, I have 10 total numbers. All right. And what happens, and I'm just showing you what happens if you get a mean that is not a nice and neat mean, like a whole number. Okay. Even still, we can still calculate the difference from these terms and calculate the positive value. Okay. So I'm going to go to my finished version. That's this over here. So notice the mean stays the same for every number in the set. So when you're calculating the difference, or the distance from that mean, that stays the same. So we're still going to take our 87 and subtract 81.8 to get 5.2. Okay. Now, what I could do in this next set is, you notice the difference is negative. You could subtract that 77, subtract 81.8, and get the -4.8. Or, for time's sake, what you could also do is do the exact opposite, because the differences are going to be the same in this case. So I'm going to take the 81.8 and subtract the 77, and that gives me the positive version. Okay. In the end, if you make it negative at first and then use the absolute value to make it positive, that works as well. Okay. So either way, you're still getting the positive value. So what I did with all of these together, I totaled up this positive value here, which I got a total of 46. And then I took how I got my variability, or again, my mean absolute deviation. I actually just added these all up and I divided them by 10, however many numbers were in the set. So I got an absolute value or a mean absolute deviation of 4.6. So to finalize this, what does this all mean? Okay, why am I calculating all of this work? Well, what we're actually calculating here with variability, what I teach in my classes is this is actually talking about consistency in data. And when I say consistency, what we mean is how close are all of these numbers in your set in relation to its mean. Okay, so if you have a mean that is a mean of 10 and all of your, whatever you're measuring there, all of your numbers are close to 10, you're going to have a lower variability, which is what you see over here. Okay. You have a higher variability or a higher mean absolute deviation when they are further apart from one another. They're further apart from the mean. And all that means is the numbers in one set versus another are more consistent. So this is called an inverse relationship. Okay. So what we talk about then is if I have a higher variability, I'll draw on this. Okay. If I have a higher variability right here, or higher mean absolute deviation, excuse my handwriting, that means we actually have lower consistency. I'll abbreviate. As I have a lower mean absolute deviation, excuse my writing, I then mean, what that actually means is my consistency of my numbers, and you can see that in the set here, the consistency is higher. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. What you guys are going to do, you are now going to go through some of the practice sessions. Okay. You can rewatch this if you need to. All right. But essentially all you're doing, calculate the mean, find each number's distance from the mean, add those distances together and divide by the total numbers in the set. And that will give you your variability.